All right. Welcome everyone to a brand new podcast slash interview. And I'm sitting here with across from me, Daniel from grouplessons.com. And Daniel has been a client of us for, I believe, almost a year. We were just talking about like when we started because there's it's been an interesting beginning of our partnership and how things went. And now in the development of growing his business and helping with that, I told asked Daniel like, hey, we've been working for some time now. Would you like to come on this interview with me and have a short conversation on how it's been and who you are as well? Because I think you have a very interesting niche and market and background and thinking about business just in general. So, Daniel, thank you so much for taking the time and being here. I really appreciate it. And just for the viewers to understand who you are and what you do, could you maybe shortly tell them a little bit more about like who you are and what you do, and then we'll kick the interview off from there.
Yeah, cool. I'm Daniel Patterson, and I am one of the co-owners of grouplessons.com. I also have my own marketing consulting business. And prior to all this, as we'll probably develop in the interview, I used to teach kids piano. And it was that experience that led me to co-write a really unique curriculum for kids that was software assisted that helped kids learn how to play the piano faster. And I did that with a couple co-founders. And we have been out here helping music lesson teaching businesses, specifically piano teaching businesses, to um, help their students just fly through those beginning stages of piano.
Amazing. I love it. Thank you so much. Let's get into the beginning because you mentioned like how it started a little bit and your background. Tell us how everything started with the business that you're currently running and how that went.
Yeah, this goes right back to literally the month I graduated from college, which was a long time ago. um, Me and my best friend from college, Greg, we had this idea to create this summer camp for kids where they could learn the piano very quickly to help alleviate the what in the music teaching business everyone knows that the summer is the worst time because everyone goes on vacation, you lose a bunch of students, and we had this idea of what if we created a camp that was immersive, almost like learning a language, learning a
Mm,
foreign language, but instead of a foreign language, kids will learn piano. So he and I was 22 at the time. And this was 20 years ago. At the time, he and I would work every single weekend, comparing notes, writing music, writing a full teacher curriculum and guide. And that first summer, pardon me, that first summer, we thought, oh my word, this is such a brilliant idea. No one's doing anything like this. By the way, Facebook wasn't even invented yet. I mean, this
mm.
was so early. Like we had the internet as it is now did not exist. You couldn't just go online and find resources. We knew we'd have to build this ourselves. So, and I'm not going to spend too much time here at this point, but we just thought, oh my word, this is such a great idea. People will just be tripping over themselves to come and have their kids take from us. That first summer, we had 7 kids sign up for our camp. And that's when I knew, like, oh my word, I need to learn how to do marketing better.
Mm,
Um, and so I kind of took on it. I think I was naturally more interested in it, and I saw it as this puzzle to solve. Well, by that fifth summer, we were enrolling anywhere from 150 to 200 kids per summer, and what that led to was an after-school program that we kind of that Greg primarily revamped so that this curriculum called Piano Express was year-round.
mhm.
Um, and that turned into a physical studio in Northern Virginia in the United States and just outside of Washington, D.C. And that ran for a while. And I kind of stepped out of the picture for a long time. I was building my own business in a different part of the country.
Mm.
I was getting into internet marketing and learning how all that worked. This was kind of the early boom of podcasts and drop shipping when that used to be a thing, and Pat Flynn podcast, like all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And he and I were kind of developing our own skill set separately.
Mm,
And I was always keeping an eye on him. I was building a consulting business. I was selling online courses. I was building this massive list of music studios around the country. Meanwhile, Greg was in silent, kind of building the tech end of this with our, who would eventually be third co-founder, Andy, who at the time was working at Google as an engineer.
mm. Okay.
Um, and the entire 2010s went by. I'm going to make this quick.
Yeah.
And I was kind of watching them from afar build this together because Andy built this app from the ground up
Mm.
in development with Greg. And I was like, I'm building this list because everyone knows you're supposed to build a list. I'm building this list and they're building this thing. Eventually, we'll probably find some way to collaborate and I will help them promote this app because, again, Greg was and is one of my best friends. He was in my wedding, all this sort of thing. Well, they come to me every once in a while asking for advice, like, what do you think teachers are like? And again, I'm just, interested in being helpful.
Mm.
And then one time I'm like, you know what? I think it's ready. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Um, I think this is ready. Like, I actually think this is worth like doing a beta test on. And I told them what my plan would be to get them beta testers. Over the previous 3 years or 4 years, they had tried to get, interest, that sort of thing. They'd gotten a handful of studios to do this.
Mm.
I went to a bunch of schools that trusted me, were clients of mine. I was doing consulting for, was running their marketing. And over the space of like 3 months, I got them 24 beta testers. And
Wow.
they came back to me and they said, you know what? Why don't you just join the company? And so I kind of came back in and rejoined the company that I'd helped, co-found in a way back,
Mm.
15 years earlier at that point. Um, I'll I'll resist the Steve Jobs comparison, not even
I
fair.
love it.
I think
Yeah.
both Andy and Greg are like geniuses, and
Yeah,
I'm
of
just an
course.
operator, Anyway, um, so I came in and we started this alpha test.
Mm.
The app was very early.
Mm.
We worked out a lot of bugs that first year. Second year, we went into a beta test, got even more people, and we were just kind of steadily growing.
Mm.
And it was around the year that we were doing the alpha test that I joined Sam Evans's former mastermind called WeTube. I think
Mm.
everyone knows about Quantum,
Mm.
but right before Sam stopped and went all in on school, he had started this new um, mastermind called
Yeah.
WeTube. And I joined that very first year.
Yeah.
And I saw all these other business types that were in there.
Mm.
And in the back of my head, I was like, I'm seeing that there are some people in here who do like Facebook ads, Meta ads, Instagram ads. There's obviously plenty of people who do YouTube ads. And I just kind of kept this in the back of my mind. And in the back of my mind, I also knew that our audience is almost entirely on Facebook.
Mm.
They're
Yeah.
not on YouTube. They're not really on Instagram. They're definitely not on TikTok. They're
Right.
definitely on Facebook. And, I was doing marketing things. I am a good marketer.
Yeah.
I knew my audience very, very well. I've been selling even a course on how to do these kinds of lessons prior to this product existing. There was kind
Right.
of like a more primitive version of it. Anyway, we got to the end of 2024 and we were doing annual planning and we were like, we are so primed to get a lot more clients. People just don't
Mm.
know we exist. I'd been doing surveying, and
Yeah.
one of my tasks for 2025 was in some way to up the ante with
Yeah.
marketing.
Mm.
And I just went in the first quarter, January through March of last year. I was kind of just weighing my options. We already
Yeah.
were doing SEO, which was good for us. I was doing some social marketing. I had a podcast that was number 2 in our industry at the time. We were doing ads on that podcast for a product. But we were kind of growing at this linear rate. And I went back into the WeTube group that had been archived. Only the people that were in it had had access to it.
Mm.
And I think you had done a cold outreach to me through that group actually on school. And I had remembered that. And I went back and I read a lot of your posts that you put in there. I did a little bit of research. And when I finished doing that, and then also weighed like this previous Facebook ads guy that I had worked with like 4 years before,
Mm.
Who had gotten some insane results for my consulting business. It just it just wasn't as good a fit anymore. And I decided to quote take a chance. But in reality, and I'm just I'm not gassing you up here, Stefan, but in reality, because we had been in the same mastermind,
Yeah.
and there was a level of honesty in what you had been posting in that mastermind, I had a really good feeling about that. Because the other part of this I will say is that we had worked with or tried to work with a number of meta ads experts.
Mm-hmm.
And in a 6 year period, I'd only had one other actually give us results. Most of the others were decent to terrible. One had
Right.
even stolen money from us, like
Really?
basically promised some stuff and then didn't even deliver. I think I told you on that when we were first
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we had an interview, and the way I looked at it was, how are we going to know without
Yeah.
results? Yeah, I mean, there's really no way to know. I mean, everybody has a website. It
Right.
looks nice,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, what kind of sealed it for me was just the level of transparency that you'd had in the WeTube group, and I was like, this is about as good as I think it'll get.
Yeah.
And so we met. We had a lot of conversations. I was in a very, very busy period because we were hiring. I was traveling a lot. I was doing all the sales at the time.
Mm.
It was a little bit slow getting started, but it would have been impossible without you guys because um and one of the things I love about you all is just you all essentially did everything.
Yeah.
In a lot of times past, again, except for that one other Facebook guy, there was so much that we had to do on our end. Like we had to
Mm-hmm.
build things in this software, we had to do that. But essentially, you guys treated you weren't awful. You guys treated me like the child I was at the time because I was being so irresponsible with my time. Like you were like, Daniel, can you please get us this one video asset? And I'm just like, okay, I'll get it. And then like 3 weeks later, anyway,
Yeah.
I know I made your
Yeah.
guys' job tough, but even as slow as I moved, like right there at the beginning, once I finally got the stuff you guys needed,
Mm.
like I didn't hear anything. And then like, it seemed like 4 days later, boom, okay, we're done. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, if I'd known it was gonna be that fast, maybe I would have moved a little faster, but I'd had, anyway. So and so we started,
Yeah.
and as soon as that funnel began, two things happened. The number of book calls for the VSL that
Mm.
I had created, which again was the thing that took so long.
Yeah.
The number of book calls coming for the VSL was a good number of book calls. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
We were steadily getting calls booked every month. As I provided new reels or testimonial reels or content, you know, things were moving.
Exactly.
But the overall interest level, this is the second thing, and I think even the more significant thing,
Mm.
because I think a lot of folks, it's great to measure. I'm a marketer.
100%.
I
Yeah.
measure.
Yeah.
But the intangible that I saw was that our overall interest went up.
Yeah.
Like all of our, because we track metrics like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Our site views went up, our overall form fills went up.
Yeah.
And then over time, I also saw just demos being booked everywhere where it was like, oh yeah, we just found you. Like, so in other words, there were even calls coming in through the website that weren't booked through the VSL funnel, but they said that I think I saw some ads of yours a couple months back on Facebook, and I just got to researching you.
Yeah.
And so the end result was that we doubled the size of the company in about 9 months.
Wow.
So 9 to 10. So when I look at what company revenue was in January of 2025 versus January of 2026, which was just last month,
mm-hmm.
we're looking at just over double in about a year.
Wow.
To the point that if we continue at this trajectory, see, I still have my consulting business going, but I would say that if we keep this trajectory going, I imagine, because we started this thing from scratch, but we're going to have to start staffing up and reinvesting
100%.
this cash into like more people. And we've even been able to hire a few people since we began with you guys, just because the demand went up and we needed more customer support staff. And now we're in a place where my time is getting so bombarded with sales stuff that we're completely redesigning our funnel. Because I think we just have more industry visibility now.
100%.
And there's a lot more trust, especially with the testimonial ads we've been running.
100%. Those are the biggest, like, if I could say, like, if there's been one thing that has shown like the biggest leverage, as I think I told you last week on our call as well, it's really been like the testimonial like style interview ads, like that's been like the game changer. And I'm just looking at the ones that are running right now as well, and they're like you can run them for like months upon months, and they will be high converting and creating omnipresence as well. Like so it just one step back, Daniel. Thank you so much. You pretty much answered most of my questions that I wanted to get into. So thank you so much. So one question, just so that people understand as well. So the core niche. Can you explain the core niche to people so they understand that, like who we've been targeting and who we've
Yes.
been
Oh,
speaking to?
yeah. Yeah. Okay. We are primarily targeting piano teachers,
Right.
ranging from individual teachers that are maybe even teaching piano lessons out of their home.
Right.
Like I think there's the stereotype of the little old lady down the street who's teaching piano lessons. That really isn't our demographic.
Mm,
And that really isn't what this industry is anymore. There's a ton of young people and middle-aged people like me that are teaching piano. I would say that our audience is 80% female.
right.
Um, and we primarily serve right now the English speaking world, so Europe, North America, Australia, New Zealand. But we are starting to get clients in non-English speaking countries, and so there's that. And then the other thing is that there is that small studio, but we
Right.
are also and primarily designed for big commercial academies where maybe
Mm,
they have 10 teachers
yeah.
and so we had a studio out in California that their yearly revenue was over $1 million a year, and they
Right.
had 230 piano students when they met us.
Mm,
And the owner didn't want to rock the boat because this is not a small add-on product. This is something where you essentially stop doing things the way you are and you come and do what we do. Um, and I'll get a little bit more into that in just a second. But what we've noticed with larger commercial academies is that they are a bit more skeptical about switching over to this because it is such a massive change. And we reduce their expense to teach students by anywhere from 3x to 6x.
mm,
If they implement our product, they might have 200 students, let's say with this, 200 students. It might take them anywhere from 10 to 15 teachers to teach those 200 students because they're seeing them all one-to-one. Our
wow.
website's called grouplessons.com. We have a method that is software assisted that allows one teacher to see 6 students at once, not one student at once.
Right.
And so um, they would be able to, so instead of seeing those 200 students, let's say in 100 hours per week using 10 to 15 teachers, they can see those 200 students in about 15 to 20 hours a week with as little as 2 teachers.
Wow.
And so this is a massive reduction in expenses. So every time someone implements us, I mean, there's very little churn because there's nothing like our product right now.
Right.
The primary problem that we've discovered is this. With big commercial academies, it is such a massive change for them. And a lot of times these commercial academy owners, they don't want to lay off like 12 teachers that have been working with them for the last 3 to 10 years. Like
Yeah.
they see it as a loyalty thing.
Mm,
And so with larger academies, they've been slower adopting. And so what we found over time was that it was actually smaller studios or beginning academies that adopt us quickly because they're on the front end of their journey and they haven't built, like, for instance, in some of these academies, they have 12 teaching rooms. They don't need that with us. Like
right.
literally, even their floor plan is resistant to change.
Mm,
And so we found that we've been primarily adopted by smaller things, which in turn in the marketing and what we told you guys, and you listened to us, which I really, really appreciate, was that this is not like a biz op
yeah.
business. This is not like hardcore internet marketing. This is not course sales. This is a traditional curriculum that has printed books. We have a
Yeah.
publisher. We have a whole publishing division for this company. Um, printed books, a software. This is primarily a very conservative customer.
Yeah.
And so I was really happy that you all listened, and even some of the initial copy that you gave to me, I was like, guys, this is way too aggressive. This is going to turn people off. And I showed like this is how, like, I gave you like years and years worth of marketing emails that I
Yeah.
sent out. I was like, look at how I write this copy. It's very conservative. It's focused on these things. And you guys adapted to that really, really quickly. And so and even at the beginning, I was actually shocked at the number of meetings we had where you were just asking me questions and running ads past us and listening really carefully as I, went on a rant for 10 minutes. Like, this is what they believe. This is how they think. This is things that have worked in the past. This is things that have not worked in the past. You think this would have worked, but actually this is what works. And you were just, very intent on that. And over time, we saw that messaging really align to the point that I didn't have to edit very much. And I've felt any marketing company that I've kept around for a long time, like you guys, it's really been a collaboration.
Yeah.
But I think of all the people I've ever worked with, I don't know if I've ever worked with anyone that has scheduled so many meetings with me to make sure they're getting it right.
Yeah. We've had, I
Yeah.
think, especially in the beginning, if I remember, we had so many calls just for like iterations.
Yeah.
And then I was like, and then you
Yeah.
you you went on, you explained everything. I was like, so Daniel, so wait, one step back. I don't get it. Tell me about this. And then you were like this. And I was like, okay. And then I went to writing and I was like, Danny, what do you think? And you were like, no, let's do this. And I was like, okay, let's write this. And then I was thinking like what will work and understanding your industry as well. Because as you mentioned as well, and it was kind of like a challenge for us, in a sense of you mentioned what has happened before with like Facebook ads and what you did and all these things, which kind of leads me to the next question is like when I hear people that tell me like, oh, I've worked with people and they haven't gone and like it maybe didn't work, or maybe I've had one person that it worked well, but that was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I'm always like, okay, let's dive into your account. Let's see what is happening. Even I believe with the toughest niche, with enough market research and deep research analysis,
Yeah.
I believe we can crack the code on ads in most of the niches, even if it's like a really complicated one. That's at least the belief I try to have from
Yeah.
everything that we've done. So my question to you is like, when you initially got in touch with me and with us, I believe we had a couple of calls as well before we even got started, and it took some time, of course, because it needed to align. You had a couple of people, if I just go on like the marketing front, like the Facebook ads experience and all these things you did, because maybe people are watching and thinking, well, I've had that experience with people, with my niche, I had it also. And if you were to say like, for example, like if they were to think like, will this work for me, or like, will this be something that will work for me, considering the past experience that I've had, what would you tell someone like that? And what was like the maybe more core reasons for why you said like, hey, let's do it regardless of the experiences that I've had before.
Right. Um, why did I do it? Well, okay. I knew our audience was on Facebook.
Mm,
And then I saw that you guys and increasingly on Instagram. They weren't 5 years ago, but they are more increasingly on Instagram now.
right.
So I knew that's where our audience primarily lived. I had faith in the product. There's nothing like us. We really have no natural competitor.
Yeah.
And then I saw you guys as specializing in that place. And then I just saw all the testimonials. But then even when we spoke, and it's been a year, and I'm trying to think back, yeah, the other part is I'm not a nice person um, when it comes to marketing or
Mm,
business. I tend to be pretty aggressive and cutthroat, and I don't play nice. And so I just asked you guys a ton of tough questions,
yeah.
and I asked questions maybe even that I felt like, oh, I'm going to ask this question, and this is what I want to hear, and I think they're going to say this, and if they say this, I'm not interested. They had better say this. So it was almost like a trap, and I've done this with a lot of external marketers that
Of
I've
course.
worked with.
Yeah.
I've set little traps in kind of that interviewing process. And you guys just were very honest. You were very you answered things where I'm just so skeptical, where my BS meter didn't go off, and so
Yeah.
I just felt there was an honesty about you guys. And that is intuition. I trust my intuition a lot. Like a lot of decisions I've made over the years, even including this one, it's like I just have this, oh, this is right
Yeah.
feeling that comes over me. And sometimes I can move too slow because I'm searching for that feeling.
100%.
Um, but I just got that, yeah, this feels right. The other thing too was in the past when I worked with other providers, um, other agencies or solo artists, so to speak. Um, it was for me and my company alone.
Mm.
For this one, I had two co-founders,
Yeah.
two partners. And so I took this one even more seriously because it was like their livelihood is depending on this
Yeah.
decision too. And they're
100%.
giving me the entire decision for this. They
Yeah.
were not involved in that process at all. You haven't even met Andy.
No, Andy,
Like,
Andy, no. Greg, we have, but
yeah,
like Andy, we haven't
yeah.
met.
Um, and so, um, and so I wanted to make sure this was absolutely right. And, is this isn't reproducible, but like I got the feeling where it was just like, yeah, because I was fully ready to not hire anyone at all. I was not desperate.
Yeah.
I was ready to not hire anyone. And I actually saw that as the best outcome. Oh, we're going to save a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And so you guys had to overcome that inertia of like me being predisposed to just say no to everyone and maybe do it internally or
Yeah.
yeah. So I
100%.
hope that's helpful answer.
Great answer to the question. So just looking at the time, because I'm of course wary of us having a long conversation. I think we could have a 2 hour
Yeah,
sit
I
down
talk too much.
if we were to do it. So let's have two additional questions and then we'll round up. So
Okay.
so you mentioned like almost like doubling the business. Can you share a little bit more to the people? Like of course it's a different niche than probably that anyone is like looking like at like
Yeah,
this
yeah,
video. But can you
yeah,
give them a little bit of an idea of maybe if it's like revenue growth or number of clients or like deals since we began or how many new like
yeah,
owners like signed up pretty much like for example or something like that just from when we started to how it went so they have like an idea of like actual growth.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So we were in double digits for licensees, and we about doubled the number of licensees who are licensing the system from us.
Yeah,
I'm a little hesitant to talk real numbers because
makes sense.
while I say we do have no natural competitors, there are other apps that
Yeah,
kind of seek to do what we do.
yeah,
And I like to keep it close to the chest. But I mean, we were already well into five figures when we met you guys, and we doubled from there.
got it.
Um, and I think if we continue on this trajectory, probably within a year or two, we're going to be a six-figure a month company. Um, and Yeah, so we're doing some serious numbers now, like
Yeah.
serious numbers. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. What does the trajectory look like for you? Because we've been talking, of course, about a lot of things. So anything you could share about like the
Yeah.
plans for like the next 6 to 12
I,
months?
you know, last year was to me, and we were talking about this, me and my operations manager, who she's my right hand, and love her to death. I call her my paid assassin. Again, being aggressive. She's she told me she loves that nickname.
I love it too, I have to say.
Yeah. um, I send her jobs and she cleans them up.
Yeah, exactly.
She's a cleaner like Leon the professional.
I love it.
Um, so anyway, uh, last year was just getting a lot of little things that were wrong across the entire company right. Just
Yeah,
cleaning up messes, like things that were inefficient, clunky. And then last year we were working with you guys while we were doing all this cleaning up, and we kind of got to the end of 2025 and we were like, there's not really a lot of problems around here anymore. And
yeah.
so what we're looking at is just we're putting because our systems internally are so good.
Mhm.
Um, which is again why I say what I say about Bethany.
Yeah,
Like I had never met someone more with more attention to detail or more like obsession about documenting everything, having processes, doing things by the book until I met her.
yeah.
Um, and she kind of grew into that role in her 20s. She's in her late 20s now. I hired her when she was 23. Um, and and so everything's running really, really smooth. We really have no problems. And so we're all kind of looking at a team at like 2026 this is just a year for just explosive growth. The
Yeah.
only thing on our mind this year really is marketing and sales, other than some other features we want to put in the software, which of course Andy is going to be working on.
Yeah.
But last year we had primarily been a web app. We went on to iOS, which opened up a massive market for us in our industry, because a lot of people, we had people who joined the month after we dropped our iOS update, and they were like, I've been waiting for 3 years to join you guys until you got iOS.
Wow.
And that was only like 5-6 months ago, and we had a huge spike there. And honestly, I think we even need to talk about us doing some ads about us being on iOS,
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
we still get people who are like, "Oh, I didn't know you were on iOS still." So I think we need to do some ads on that.
100%. 100%.
Um, and so for us, it's just like we want to increase the growth curve. And so I don't entirely know what that looks like, but I know you guys are going to be involved, and I know that we are wanting to talk with you all about the funnel, and you're keeping us up to date on what's working on Meta
Yep.
right now. So yeah, that's kind of the trajectory for us and what our future plans are. We are kind of a niche product within our industry, but we hope there's a lot of bias in our industry against group lessons. A lot of teachers think, oh, well, that's substandard
Sure.
to doing a one-on-one lesson. But literally our curriculum is blowing the one-on-one curriculums out of the water. Like, our kids are moving through their books faster, having more fun, getting and retaining the skill better
Right.
because of everything that we built into our
It's
platform.
beautiful. Yeah.
I think there's a possibility that we could make the old way of learning piano a thing of the past, which would be for the betterment of everyone, for teachers, for students, for parents, and for business prospects. Because what the stereotype of the piano teacher is that, if you're going into career teaching music, it's a labor of love. You're essentially signing up for a vow of poverty for your entire life.
Yeah.
And what Greg and I discovered in our 20s was, even in our 20s, we were making 6 figures a year teaching group lessons because we could just see more kids. But that wasn't enough for us. It wasn't just about the money. We're educators first.
Right.
It had to be, couldn't just be for the money. It actually had to be a better product than what the standard was. And even in our
Yeah.
20s, we were doing better than some of our older peers. Now with the software, like, now we're just miles ahead of them, and getting further ahead every single year. And so I think I'm more of the operator. Me and Bethany are more of the operator. Greg is the visionary. Greg is truly the Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs. Yeah.
If I'm being honest, like, he's got the vision. He's always coming up with new ideas for how to make the software and the curriculum better. And Bethany and I are kind of the ones that were like, okay, now let's make this a reality. And of course, I do the marketing and the sales because I love it. But that's kind of the trajectory. And then Andy's the one making all this possible with the coding. And so we've just got this really, really great leadership team. But we're all putting our heads together, like,
Right.
okay, how do we just take this? How do we go nuclear with this? How do we go hockey stick with the growth?
100%.
And that's kind of the goal this year.
I love it. Thank you so much for putting that also for people to understand as well. And one final question, or maybe let's do two. One final question is like on a little bit on final last words. But before we get into the final last words, if you could give like one piece of advice to someone who's still looking at this, and maybe they have a conversation with us, or still have to have a conversation with us, and they're hesitating to taking on maybe a a company like us that works very close on, has calls, does a lot of deep research, really tries to understand the person sitting across from them. And if they're hesitating and they're really looking at this and saying like, hey, I'm not sure, what would you tell them in terms of piece of advice?
I would tell them, you will never build a team internally that will do what FYS does. You will not be able to build a team internally. All the people you have to hire and the expertise that you'd have to find, you're going to pay way more in the market for that than just externalizing this expense outside of the company. It is so much a better use of your time, money, and resources to outsource this to a team like this, because they have a ton of people that they've curated. And every single person I've worked with has been an impressive person. And like I said, I am not a nice person when it comes to business. I want blood. I only hire like internally. I mean, I've fired people in the last year because they just did not fit the cutthroat culture. Like, you would better be amazing if you're going to work for me. And that's the energy I bring to external people as well. And there's just no way I could have built this team internally. Not the level of expertise you guys, and not for the price that we're paying for you. You're worth way more than we're paying. So That's my thought.
To the people, because you've had I love when Daniel and I speak, and I always say like, feels like a moment in Gladiator, you know, like, are you not entertained? Like having watched this and heard everything that he said, you know. So we're just sweeping Leon the professional, as Daniel also said. So final question, Daniel, to end it off on a good note. Do you have any last piece of advice, tip, wordings for anyone looking at this? Because it's usually like marketers, maybe coaches, all these people that are watching this. Any last form of advice, or because you've, of course, with your experience in marketing and everything that you know, is there anything you would like to leave them with watching this and having seen this interview?
Um, just in general, just general business advice.
Can be general business advice, can be tied
Okay.
to our what we've been
Okay.
doing, anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The advice is most businesses underspend on marketing.
Mm,
Um, as a on the in my because I run a couple companies in my own consulting and marketing company, and I have coaches who work for me in that company. Um, just the thing we see over and over and over again with the businesses in our niche, and then I've also consulted outside my niche too. Everyone is so gun shy. Everyone is so scared to spend on marketing, or when they do spend on marketing, they do not track, and so they don't really know what they're getting. And it's like this is the CEO's first job. You have to take this seriously. I take it very seriously. And if anything, I probably overspend on marketing a little bit, but that's why typically my companies have grown the way they have. And I
mm,
would just say, find good people, and then when you do, just let them free, let them do their job, and just pay the money. Like as Gary Vee says, you've got one life. You're gonna die.
yeah,
Like you don't
exactly.
get these days back. And so it's
Mm,
like, do the work and just focus on your marketing wing of the business, because that is the CEO's first job, marketing and sales. And until you have that, as one of my other partners says, Nate says, until you have that bucket of business under control, like what are you doing? That's where all your effort needs to be. So that's how I'd set out.
amazing. I love it. I love it. Daniel, thank you so much for taking the time. We'll stay on just for a second. All of you, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoy this and see you in the next one.